Hi, welcome to the sixth edition of Booster. Again, John, Dave, and myself can look back over Leinster's fantastic victory against Racing at the weekend. All the other European action, of course, look forward to our game against Gloucester on Friday night. So, lads, 42-10 against Racing, kind of dismantled them. 6 tries to 1. Really, really impressive performance.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
I was just going to say, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
I was kind of shocked. It's funny, in such a one-sided game on the scoreboard, it was a tough game. Like, you know, they never kind of lay down, or we just, whatever way we just had their measure. I think, simple as that. And we never let them play. We never let them get going. We seemed to be able to defend them fairly well. Our line-out was superb. I thought it was a record set by Dan Sheehan. The first time anybody's had more than 18 successful lineouts in a European Cup match, and it was 22. So yeah, that was pretty impressive, especially seeing as it hasn't fired on a few occasions earlier this season. So to get to this point in the season and to have won all our games is incredible, and to have won a game away in France against Racing, who are one of the big guns who are focused on this competition. And now are looking at coming to the RDS in the final round to, I don't know what shape they're going to be in, or you know, how they're going to be after playing. What English club are they playing?
Quins,
that's right. Yeah, after playing Quins twice, who knows what shape they'll be in? They could win 50-0 in both games, or you know, lose 17-12 in both games. Who knows? But they have their work cut out to break their 100% losing record against Leinster in this competition. So
yeah. The ironic thing is that there's lots of kind of work-ons for the coaching. I mean, some stuff we didn't do particularly well in terms of, you know, there was a lot of balls fumbled and things like that, but they weren't system failures. The system worked perfectly. You mentioned the lineouts. The movement in the lineouts was just extraordinary. Guys moving up and down. There's no way Racing could have marked that line out. The movement was just too good. And how we beat them was we beat them with precision. We beat them with pace, pace at the breakdown, cleverness, guys not taking contacts on anyone else's terms except their own. Everyone using a little bit of footwork to get that inside shoulder. Our forwards were absolutely brilliant. It's hard to talk about how good they were. It's hard to. It sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. That's how good they were. They were absolutely brilliant. And in fairness, Ross Byrne functioning as the perfect pivot, as he always does when Leinster play. He just acts as a kind of a facilitator for those around him. Charlie Natai came in and played really, really well in the absence of Henshaw. Yeah, no, it was just a great all-round performance.
Well, there you go again. To take an away game in Paris without Johnny Sexton, Robbie Henshaw, and Tadhg Furlong is damn impressive. But I kind of felt at halftime I wasn't feeling massively over. I wasn't thinking it was going to be such a big win at halftime. I thought they had the better of us in the breakdown in a lot of places in the first half. They were able to put men in and spoil our rooks. And I thought that they were going to get on top. But they never got going. I mean, in fairness, it wasn't all us. Well, it was, you know, how much of it was us disrupting them and how much of it was them not getting their shit together.
You mentioned the breakdown. They were very good in the breakdown. But if you look at it, their kind of dominance of the breakdown kind of ended after about half an hour as Leinster realised what was going on and then just made minute changes or small changes to put more guys into the breakdown, which actually worked against Racing. They kind of did themselves no favours because we had more guys in the breakdown, which meant the ball was even quicker. If you look at the try that Ed Byrne scores, the ball, I mean, it was off. The ball in each phase, 4 or 5 phases that led up to that, the ball it was so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, And it's the one thing they always say, isn't it? Stop Leinster's getting fast balls to breakdown, and you stop Leinster. So maybe that's what they were at in the first 30 minutes, and didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah. Where I was in the ground was just over the try line, and the ferocity of our defence. Like you mentioned, all the different factors of why we won it. I thought the reason why we won it was our defence, and we just put them under enormous pressure. We fought for everything and gave them nothing. Even when we were comfortably in the lead in the second half, we defended our try line magnificently. We harried them, we put them under huge pressure, so much so that when they did get the ball, they ended up spilling it when they had men over. And it was only a bit of genius from Finn Russell with a beautiful little dummy and then to give the pass to Wade that that they got their try in the 74th minute, but up to that point we held our line. So like it was just from the particular vantage point that I was, particularly in the second half, just our tenacity in defence was absolutely outstanding, and you could just see that this team seems in this particular game they were on a serious mission. Like obviously wanted to right the wrong that was in Marseille, and like they have to be careful now, obviously, not to. Someone sent me a picture of the game in Northampton. It was, I think, nine years ago when Drico put the ball through his legs when Luke Fitzgerald scored in the corner. And, we were magnificent in that game in Northampton. And we slipped up the following week back in Dublin. So obviously we have different opponents next week. But
yeah, you do. You have to back. You're right. You have to back it up.
Yeah. That was actually Jamie Heaslip with the line at his mercy on in the very last minute of the game, if I'm remembering the right game.
Yeah.
And it went from us scoring maybe it was a bonus point try, but it was certainly a try to put us out of reach, and it ended up as an intercept where they ran in under the sticks. I think Heaslip had men outside him as well, which made it worse.
And because I think they might have actually got ahead and got put we didn't get a bonus point, and as a result we didn't qualify out of the pool that season, and we ended up in the Amlin. I think it was that season. So
that was the previous season, but anyway,
was it? Sorry. Okay. There was some absolutely outstanding performances, like you mentioned a few of them there. I thought Darius once again, just like himself and Van der Fleer are just in a different class when it comes to back row play. They're absolutely, and again, Porter was just a rock.
He's another great man at a breakdown. Get that guy over a ball. He's like a limpet. There's nobody budging him. You want nuclear sub to get him off the ball. And when you've got Van der Fleer able to do that as well, and Doris, and even some of the bigger guys in the second row are great at poaching too. So it's there's a lot of poachers in there. There's a lot of guys who can make yards as well. Doris and Van der Fleer being two of them. But when your back row mate gets World Player of the Year, and you don't look like you're a passenger beside him, what does that say?
One guy who deserves credit, one back rower I thought who I thought was excellent was Ryan Baird.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
He did all the Ryan Baird things as well as Ryan Baird normally does them, but he was also really, really good in tight, which is sometimes tricky for a guy like that to switch that part of his game on, because he's not an in tight player. But I thought he was really, really good in at the donkey work of a number 6. He did that, and then he did all the Ryan Baird things. I'm sure everyone's seen the meme of him stepping the two guys. I mean, it was just brilliant. But no, I thought he was absolutely superb for the graft he put in, as well as the glitter.
Sure.
But I was saying, like Jason was talking about a moment of genius from Finn Russell. I said on Twitter, and Scottish Twitter went mad with me. I said that if you're 93 points up and you want to get to 100, Finn Russell's your man. But those first 93 points, not so much.
Yeah, he was absolutely anonymous in the game. But like, I mean, and you know, I'm sort of reluctant to criticize Ross Byrne because he did have a very good game, but did he have a very good game because his pack was so dominant? And like he's very good when his forwards are going forward, but when it's more of an even contest, I still think that there's doubts about him being the man that's going to lead us once Johnny's gone.
The question is, does he have the ability to impose himself on a game the way that Johnny Sexton does? Probably not. Certainly not at the moment. But then very few do. But you know, I agree with you in that way. What he's really, really good at is he's good at putting his pack into positions where they can dominate. You know, that's
true.
He's the guy who's moving the ball. I mean, himself and obviously Gibson Park, but they're the guys who are determining where Leinster play and how fast they play, etc., etc., etc. And he does that very, very well. So I think you're probably both right, and I could argue with you as well on that point.
Yeah, well, you know, you can say that about a lot about halves. I mean, the current coach of La Rochelle had a serious pack in front. We had David Wallace to babysit him, who had the pace to crease anybody coming near him, and you know, the strength to do so also. And you know, I'm a huge admirer of Raj, and I'm not trying to say that he would have been rubbish without that monster pack, but you know,
Raj went on tour with the Lions twice.
Yeah, he did.
I would be unsure if Ross Byrne is going to go on tour with the Lions.
Absolutely.
I would kind of agree with you, but Jason, but I'd also point out that on the first of those tours, Tyrone Howe went instead of Dennis Hickey. So you know.
Yeah, okay, but you know, generally speaking, Dave, there's always one outlier. But
Finn Russell went last time instead of Johnny Sexton. Chris Harries went.
Yeah, well, I thought Russell probably played you know, if he had started in the other tests. But anyway, that's another day's conversation. But like, this was all played out on the backdrop of the team arriving. We met, we bumped into Sam Alakadu when we were leaving the ground, and he was in a Leinster blazer, and he was telling us that the team were delayed on the ground for 5 hours. The plane circled Deauville for a while where they were scheduled to land, couldn't land there, ended up getting diverted into Beauvais. When they got to Beauvais, they obviously had no transportation organised because they weren't scheduled to land there. And then it was after midnight by the time everyone got back in taxis after a 2.5 hour taxi ride back to Le Havre. So like, obviously not the best preparation for a game. So, you know, to come out and to play the way that they did with a very disrupted travel day was pretty exceptional.
They were waiting on a bus from Ryanair. The Ryanair were going to put on, and apparently it was the starting 15. There's a friend of mine on the flight. The starting 15 were put in taxis, and the rest of the officials of the coaches and the subs were on the bus, which my mate was also on, and so either way, it was rubbish preparation, but it certainly didn't show the next day.
Yeah, I mean, that can't be underestimated because, you know, professional athletes, they're finely honed machines, and even a speck of dirt in a finely honed machine can throw it completely off kilter.
And
they didn't allow that to happen. Yeah,
and they're creatures of habit, and they want everything planned out and in order for them. And when there's a bit of a spanner in the works, it can literally. I mean, we'll get to it in a few minutes, but obviously Ulster were affected similarly, probably worse. But you know, they didn't handle the situation. So it was like, no matter what you throw at this team, they're able to adapt to it.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly. I mean, the Leinster team are so mentally strong now that a spanner goes into the works and they just throw the spanner away. Conversely, the Ulster team are so frail mentally. A spanner goes into the works and they lose their nuts.
Very good, Dave. Very clever. Is that going to segue us into the Ulster game?
No, I don't. I wasn't attempting a segue.
You're not finished talking about Leinster yet, Dave, really?
Well, I think they deserved. I mean, because there was guys who came in and haven't played really a whole lot of rugby this year. I thought were really excellent. James Lowe's appetite for work, where no other winger looks for work, is superb. I thought Gibson Park again. Okay, he didn't play his best game, but he really kept the pack ticking along nicely, and he always makes the right choices, which is what I always look for in a scrum half.
Yeah, who else? As soon as you mentioned James Lowe, the other two members of the back three, they both have this thing where they inspire such confidence. When you see them getting trampled by a whole lot of forwards, you never kind of go, "Oh shit, we're in trouble here." You always know they're going to roll the right way. Their technique is absolutely flawless. Both of them. Jimmy O'Brien, who's younger by a few years, I think. Although maybe not too much, but they both came through the same sevens team with Balakoon and those. Your favourite, Dave. But my point is I'm not saying their technique is from sevens or anything to do with that. I'm just saying that their technique, as back three players, receiving ball under pressure is absolutely stunning. And obviously going forward as well. I have no fear when I see either of them going into contact against a big French unit or whoever. They'll always manage, and of course our pack will manage to catch them quick enough before they get destroyed as well. So
no, that's it. It's all about it. Like a lot of what you do in rugby. I always say this, like I've said this before about the All Blacks. When the All Blacks were at their peak, it looked like magic what they were doing, because they weren't doing anything particularly special or fancy. What they were doing were the basics, and they were doing them extraordinarily well and extraordinarily precisely and extraordinarily quickly. So it looked like magic. And that's what a lot of Leinster players do. They do the basics so well and so precisely. It looks like it's something extraordinary.
Yeah. And I'm sure the guys themselves, it's like talk to anybody who's talented at anything, and it's true. Well, I just did. I didn't do anything special. I just did. So, if they would see it as just totally natural and normal, and not that they've done it, we're giving them heaping praise upon them, and they'd be just looking at us going, "What's wrong with you guys? It's just what you do. There's nothing special about it."
I think that you look at the talented players who really succeed. What's special about it is the amount of hard work they do to make it look so normal.
Of course, absolutely.
But like you mentioned James Lowe earlier, and it was an interesting interview with him there during the week, where he pointed out that when he was injured and then he sort of saw some of his teammates excelling in his position, he was like, "Oh my God." So it just goes to show that it's the standards that are within, whether it's in the Irish team or the Leinster team, that those guys pushing the standard of what is the minimum performance required is pushing everyone. It's it's driving him on. So when he got selected, he said, "I have to really shine. I don't have an opportunity. I don't have a chance to just drift my way back into this team. I have to hit the ground running." And like you could see what he did, even when they kicked through, he saved the 50-22 by, making an exceptional play to keep that ball in, and then returned it 50 meters down the pitch. And, even like someone like when we were talking about Ringrose and how he stepped up over the last sort of 3 months, maybe into this leadership role within the team, you think of like, he chased a ball that he had no right to get anywhere near. When we kicked deep into their 22, they took a quick line out, and he was there to make the block down and put them under enormous pressure again, where it was, a line out where we were putting them under pressure in their 22. So you've got these star players all performing at the highest level, and it's just driving the standards through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like we move on from Leinster. Like there was obviously there was a lot of other games at the weekend. we kind of touched on the Ulster game, like losing, what was it, 13-9-0, was it, against Sale.
Frightening.
You know, that's a very, very poor result for them. And okay, I know you can say that their travel plans were disrupted, and you know, but still in all, like, to be nilled against a team, it's not that they're playing La Rochelle or Saracens here. Like, let's put it into perspective, they're playing Sale.
Well, in fairness, now I'm going to give them a little tiny chink on that one. Like, Sale are much improved the last couple of years. Having said that, it was an abject performance by Ulster. It really was shocking. Now it was 39-0 says it all. Like, and I think Dave said during the game, of their last three halves of rugby, they've scored 7 points and let in 74. And the 7 points they did get were on the whistle as a consolation try. So there's something rotten in this. I know Dave is always harping on about it, but I have to agree with him this week anyway. There's something rotten in that state of Denmark in there. And I know we always say they don't have the pack to compete at European level, or they've got some great talented backs. But like, pack isn't that rubbish either, you know. It's
that's the point. I mean, you can talk. Okay. Do they have a pack as good as Leinster's? No, but very few do. They still have a pack full of international players and international quality players, certainly squad players that should be doing better. I mean, that was an unacceptable performance on by any metric. I think. Look, you look at Ulster Rugby, right? And I mean, there's a good history of the game is embedded in the province. They have a good production line of players. I know people say they don't produce forwards, and maybe they don't, but they produce an awful lot of players. They also manage to attract players from overseas and from within Ireland. It's an attractive place to go, or it seems to be anyway. They have a nice stadium that's debt-free. Their cross-border position means that they do hoover up quite a bit of funding from both governments. So, I mean, Ulster are in a healthy place everywhere except on the pitch. And for the last 2-3 years, I've had growing doubts. I have a certain affection for Ulster. My family are from Ulster. And I've over the last couple of years, I've had growing doubts about what Dan Farland, if he can take this team any further. I don't think he can. I mean, I know people have said, well, the only teams that Ulster have really lost to are Leinster, but that's not the case. They've lost to a lot of teams that they shouldn't be losing to. And they haven't got any closer to Leinster. I mean, the closest they got was when Stockdale knocked that ball on over the line. Okay, they beat us twice last year, but at the end of the day, it meant nothing. They haven't been able to get to the next level. I don't think Dan McFarland is the man to take them to the next level. He's been there 5 years pretty much, and that's pretty much the active lifespan of a coach, unless he changes things completely, which he hasn't. I think time's up.
They've had a few false dawns under him. In fairness, he's had them going well at various times. I only say false dawn because look where they find themselves now. But before that, they had your man Cowboy. They had, everybody they've had since your man who was forced to retire after he got to a European final. Not retired, forced to take a job in the branch. Let a more professional coach take over, and like they've done nothing since. Well, obviously they've won no trophies since 2006, but that was their last time in the European final. I don't think have they made a semi since. Oh, they have actually. Didn't they make one in the following? Was it? No, that was the year I'm thinking of with Edinburgh in Lansdowne Road. Yeah, so I think that maybe was the last time they made a semi in Europe. So yeah, it's not great, and they haven't apart from being in a final against us in 2013 and nearly winning it. They haven't done that great in the league either. You know, they've always been there or thereabouts, and they always seem to be the team that, until the South African teams came in, they were the team that was probably most likely to be in the, apart from ourselves, it was most likely to be in the shake-up at the end of the season. But, they're not, nothing spectacular has happened to them. So I don't know what the answer is. It seems they've had several coaches, and several bunches of players, and they've got kits off coming in next year after the World Cup. So
but a prop isn't. You're not going to build your team around a prop, you know.
No, he's on a 3-year contract, and he's a World
Okay,
Cup winning prop. And,
yeah, okay, fine, but you know what I mean. Like their problems are a lot deeper than just one player.
Sure, I'm
But,
just
like
using
I think maybe they
example.
hope that as well as ability in the scrum, he's going to bring a cultural thing. I don't know. It's
That's
not
what
as
they
if
need.
the South African rugby culture is something that's alien to them. I mean, they have Dwayne Vermeulen there, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
But that
I guess-
performance was abject, as you say. I mean, Sale, okay, they're going well in the Premiership, but you know they're a Premiership team.
are they going
Well,
to?
they
Do
have
you think?
They have
Like you mentioned semi-finals of Europe. Do you honestly think Sale will be in the semi-final of Europe?
No,
Not a chance. Like, you know, I think maybe the one thing that McFarlane might have done, he's kind of got them to usurp Munster as the second Irish team.
He's done a lot of good things, but not the one thing he has to do.
Yeah, no, agreed. But is that because of Munster's demise rather than his, you know, prowess as being a coach?
Colin A
Right,
and Colin B.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So let's say they are the second ranked Irish team. As the second ranked Irish team there's only 4 pro teams in Ireland. They're the second, they're ranked the second amongst them. And Ireland is currently ranked first in the world. And like, if you want to be generous, we're probably, let's say, within the top 3 on a regular basis within World Rugby. At that level, you've got to be more successful for your second best team of a team that's third in the world, within the top 3 of the world.
Yeah,
You know what I
even
mean?
if you take Leinster out of it, Ulster are still, not performing to a level that they should, considering their situation. I mean, okay, there's an old Bill, second week running Bill Hicks joke. People were talking about Iraq having the 4th biggest army in the world. He says, well, let me tell you, after the first 3, there's a real fucking fall off.
Mm-hmm.
He said Harry Krishnan said the 5th biggest army in the world, and they've already got our airports. But so I mean, taking Leinster out of it, even with nothing else, Ulster in and of themselves aren't performing the way Ulster should perform. I mean, when a big game rolls around, Ulster will find a way to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
They nearly did it even against Munster the other week. They were, 12-0 up or 13-0 up at half time, and nearly allowed Munster into it. And not a great Munster team by any means,
Mm-hmm.
Nearly allowed them back into it. Obviously, we know what they did last week against us. We know what they did this week against Sale. There's a screw inside that Ulster head that's not turned the right way.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any easier for them at the weekend.
No.
We'll come to that in a little while. Okay, so somebody just going through the other Irish game was Munster against Toulouse in the Fog on Sunday night. They were close but no cigar again.
They fought bravely.
Yeah, but the difference between them and Ulster is that you can see shoots of improvement. Does you know what I mean? Whereas
Munster don't have any mental problems.
But Ulster's trajectory is downward, whereas Munster seems to be upward, even though the results aren't.
There's a question now. I mean, Munster got a losing bonus point against the behemoths that are Toulouse in a very difficult game condition wise, and so people are saying, "Oh, that's a sign of progress." 6 months ago, Munster scored 3 tries against Toulouse, and Toulouse couldn't beat them on the pitch. So there's a question: is there progress, or is it progress that we want to see?
Well, a bit of column A and a bit of column B. Perhaps. Yeah. But I think I was talking to someone tonight on my drive home from work, and we were just smiling at the fact that of the big deal that, say, Donal Lenihan made about John Ryan, and
he's off again.
I just kind of had to have a little chuckle because, like, if Munster think that they're going to build their team around John Ryan's got 200 caps. It's not
John
like
Ryan's left.
yeah, I know he's going to the Chiefs, but Donal Lenihan was talking about wanting him to, why aren't Munster signing him? Why aren't they keeping him? Why aren't making bigger efforts? Like at the end of the day, Munster had him for over 200 games, and he, let's say he's not Ty Furlong, he's not Andrew Porter, he is John Ryan, and a good player as he is. You're not going to build your championship winning team around him.
No, but you're not going to win any kind of championship with Stephen Archer.
I don't think you're going to win anything with John Ryan either.
No, but at least you got a chance of winning your own ball.
Okay.
I mean, he is a good scrummager. I mean, he's a good scrummaging prop. Okay, yeah, absolutely. He's not around the pitch. He's not the most mobile or anything, but he's a good hard worker. He's a good technical scrummager and stuff like that. And he has improved Munster in the last couple of months he's been there. Now, admittedly, it's from a low base, but he has improved them. But now they've decided, yeah, well, thanks very much. So long. Thanks for all the fish. And they're going back to what?
Salanoa, Knox, and Archer, presumably. None of which have really are really shining lights. Hard to slag off Archer. I mean, he has improved over his time. I mean, he was an AIL prop really when he started off, and he's become more than that. He's not a world beater, but like we're used to Tyg Furlong, so we're obviously not going to have a high opinion of the Stephen Archers of the world, but he's a good solid rugby player.
Instead of signing journeyman centres on a continual rolling 2-year basis, maybe they should invest some money and get a decent couple of forwards.
Maybe they're not let by the RFU. I don't know.
Well, I don't see why they wouldn't be. It's not like if Munster signed a world class tight head, who would he be blocking?
You don't have to convince me.
Well, put it this way: Ulster were allowed to sign a world class prop.
Yeah, with other Irish props there, with Eric O'Sullivan and Tom O'Toole in situ, and they were still allowed to sign it. So, I mean, we often joke about what Tuesday, what will Munster do? Oh, they'll sign a centre, but that's what they do. I don't know why they wouldn't sign a prop. I mean, you can't slag off Stephen Archer for being Stephen Archer. I mean, that's not right. I mean, and he's absolutely maximized his career. He's had a career that I am wildly jealous of. I would love to have had a career like him. But at the same time, from a completely cold-hearted standpoint, you're not going to win anything if you can't win your own scrums, or you can't, at least survive in the scrums. And I don't think that he gives Munster that option. I think that a team like Munster, the rugby they want to play, the rugby that's their kind of characteristic, it has to start with the set piece. And
yep. Okay, so just going through some of the other results. We'll talk about Gloucester shortly. So like they had a good victory against Bordeaux, and they were losing against them, and they came back to win 22-17. So the weekend got kicked off by London Irish losing to Montpellier at home. I didn't really see much of that game, but when I flicked it on, I couldn't get over how empty the stadium was. And like that seemed to be a theme throughout the weekend of pretty sparse crowds. And I read a long thread on Twitter about the Ospreys Leicester Tigers game, and it's funny how as you said about it, Dave, the Welsh just whinging and whinging and whinging, wanting to blame everybody but without taking any responsibility themselves.
Well, that's it. I mean, the Welsh, we've heard from Wales so often, so many times, about how they miss. Oh, how we miss. It's not the same these days without those cross-Severn derbies that we love so much, when the English would come to town and the whole town would be full and there'd be screens set up in the streets so people could watch the game. Hundreds of thousands of people would watch every match. Maria, me bollocks. I mean, there was, I mean, there's
It was 6,600.
Yeah, the Swansea.com stadium was not overburdened with. I mean, put it this way: the depreciation on the seats will have to be sized down a bit for this week. Look, the competition's shit. It's a shit competition. Like let's be honest about it. I mean, okay, when it gets to the knockout stages, it'll be great, but it's a shit competition. I mean, Gloucester are going to send over the under-11s next week because they've got to win, and they know that a win and maybe another bonus point will be enough to take them through to the next phase. So why bother the bollocks against Leinster in a game they're more likely to lose? I mean, it's a shit competition.
Mm.
I mean, Connacht played 6 games last year, right? And they lost 5 of them. Then, I mean, and 4 of those games were in the group stage. They lost 3 of them. You know, so yeah.
That's because they had the double, the 2-legged 6.
Okay, so
team,
either way, they only won 1 group stage game and they still got through to the next round. I mean, shit competition.
Well, yeah, but like you know, we were singing the praises of the URC. I think there was only 3 URC winners. There was 5 from the Premiership and 4 from the top 14. So
that's surprising, isn't it? The Stormers surprised me. I know they were away, but I just, I thought, the champs. I thought they'd go and be champs and play like champs. Now, in fairness to all South African teams, I doubt they've ever experienced weather like that on a rugby pitch before.
Yeah, but the thing is, for teams like the Stormers and for French teams and for English teams, right? They know all they have to do is get that 1 win, which they'll get at home. So, I mean, why bother your bollocks going? The only teams that will bother their arses will be the teams with big European heritage, like ourselves, like La Rochelle, like Munster, like Toulouse. We'll see what Racing do next week. But, I mean, what's the point when all you need is 1 win? But
isn't it concerning that, like, we obviously, and the Irish teams in general, put a lot of emphasis on Europe, We prioritise it. We wear the star. We don't put the stars of the URC victories on our jersey. It's concerning that the other countries don't give a damn about it. It's only us. That's a big, and hopefully the South Africans will give a damn, because they might be the stimulus to bring some interest back into it.
But yeah, hopefully it will, but it's hard to know. I mean, if they went back to the old format, the old group stage format, it would make a big difference, because there'd be a sense of jeopardy there.
Yeah, but it does seem there's a huge groundswell of anti-current format. Like just no one likes it, and I don't. It's not just fans that don't like it. It's actually the people who voices are listened to.
It's objectively shit.
The journalists.
It's objectively shit. It's not that, you know what I mean? It's not that we don't like it for a certain reason and somebody else might like it. It's, there's no redeeming feature. The only redeeming feature is you have an extra round of knockouts. And what you have to lose to get that, like the chaotic structure of being in a group where the teams, even the teams you're playing out of that group, are playing different teams the following week to the ones you're playing.
Who thought of that?
It's insane. It doesn't matter. Well, my opinion was they thought of it for COVID, and COVID is over. So, maybe it was too late to change this year, but I'd be very shocked if it doesn't change next year and some kind of group stage.
It has to change next year, otherwise the competition is dead, because at this point in time, the European Cup is a bit like the Anglo-Welsh Cup. With the Irish is the Welsh and the English, and everyone else is the Anglo. The Irish love it, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do we love it? We do. I think we like the concept of it, but this particular format is pretty.
No, we don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have a game on Friday night against Gloucester, but as you say, there are rumours. I heard Bernard Jackman on the RT podcast today talking about a possibility of them bringing over a very weakened team, because they just reckon there's no point in bringing over their first, because they're going to get beaten, and psychologically it might damage them for the rest of the season, which I thought was very defeatist.
Well, there there is a thing to be said for, and even Joe Schmidt used to do this, playing not under strength, but slightly below his best selection to see how they would survive. And if they survive, it's a bonus. Like if Gloucester send over their second string and they lose by 10 points, those guys will be,
I don't remember Joe Schmidt ever playing an understrength team in a European game.
Yeah, he did. He definitely
I don't remember it.
He'd send, when I say understrength, he might just leave 2 or 3 players and you'd be going, why did he do that? And then we go over and win and, or perform very well. Now,
he did pick teams that were horses for courses. For example, away in France, he'd often pick Damien Brown, but that's because he thought he was the right guy to play in those games. But I don't think he ever picked understrength teams, John.
Okay, well, let's not get too bogged down on whether he did or not. It could be me taking a flyer, but I certainly have a perception that there were plenty of times when we were going, "What's he thinking of?" And then the following week we were going, "Geez, he was dead right, wasn't he?" That worked out very well. So. There's if you're in a situation where you're going to lose, it's better to lose with your seconds, and if your seconds do reasonably well, then it can be a huge lift for them in the Premiership because they've got all these guys who came in and weren't killed stone dead by Leinster.
I think if there is 80 points put on them.
Well, that's the risk you're taking.
I think it's more to do with the fact that Sale have a fairly heavy Premiership schedule coming up. They have their win in their arse pocket, and that's that. We're not going to see the likes. I'll be very surprised if we see the likes of Rhys Sammet or Tom May or any of the top guys. They're just not going to bother their arse. And who can blame them?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Be interesting to see whether Furlong Sexton or Henshaw make a return back. I think Henshaw's out till the new year, isn't he?
Henshaw's definitely out.
Yeah, Henshaw won't be back now.
But the other two, I think McBride poured a bit of cold water on that one. He said, "Look, they're just back running. They're not going to make it."
Okay.
And why would they? Why would they kill themselves to get back for a game that we're playing at home in front of a hopefully packed RDS? When we've just won in France without them, we should be able to win in the RDS against Gloucester.
Well, hopefully
the
hopefully the atmosphere will be as good as it was against Ulster. But I think we mentioned it last week. The atmosphere is because people are, very enthusiastic for what's happening on the pitch. If you're just going to turn up and it's going to be another 30-40 point victory.
Facile victory.
Like, is it really? Are you really going to start shouting yourself hoarse? You will. I know you will, John. You'll have a 40-pointer.
I do. I agree with you, John. I mean, okay. There's no doubt that everyone there will support Leinster to the full. However, to get an atmosphere like you get against Ulster, there has to be kind of, there's that kind of feedback. Kind of a feedback loop that happens between the team and the play and the support, where the team needs something, the sport gives them to them, the team lifts and that lifts the support, etc. Against, when you're winning 30 points, that just doesn't happen. It just can't happen. Now we're all been very cheeky, assuming we're going to win 30 points against Gloucester, which, mocker gods, we salute thee. But it's a shit competition.
Yeah, but let's win it anyway.
Oh, I absolutely. I have no problems with us winning it, because once it gets to knockouts and all the chaff is gone, and it's a proper, it's a proper cup competition. That's fine. That's grand. But it's the shit that goes beforehand that really soils it.
But you see, there's even good teams in it that aren't that bothered about it. But
yeah.
Once you're into the knockout stage, once you're into that round of 16, then everyone cares about it.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to throw a game when you're already in it. You know what I mean? When you've got an opportunity. So, as you say, that's when it becomes good again. But, once you get the Welsh out of this, we'll be fine. So, Some other games of the weekend, like we kind of touched on it. Ulster obviously have an opportunity for redemption, but they also have the reigning champions in their back garden, if indeed it happens, because there was talk. I think it was Rory O'Connor, was it today, tweeted saying the pitch up there could be frozen and it could either be postponed from Saturday to Sunday to give the time for the pitch to thaw, or it might be moved to Dublin.
Yeah, I can't see the RDS hosting 2 games in 24 hours, but who knows? Anything can
Viva,
happen.
maybe? I don't know.
I could see the RDS hosting that game if it was necessary.
Because we don't need it again for another fortnight.
Well, that's it. I mean, the pitch is in good nick there. I mean, it really is. I've never seen it look better. So if it had to be done, it would be done. The only problem is I'm not sure how much it would have to be done. But the weather is not supposed to improve all that much. I don't know what the weather forecast is like for Northern Ireland, but for the border counties, it's not great.
The weather forecast on Sunday is apparently 9 degrees and piss and rain. So
balmy.
Yeah, literally. It's going to get really cold tomorrow, and probably Friday it'll be really cold. But by Sunday, it's to be like practically warm by comparison. So there should be time to tie at the pitch if they wait till Sunday. But the downside is it's probably going to be absolutely piss and rain. So it won't be. It'll be one for the purists if it's played.
And the pitch. I mean, the pitch is an important part, but it's only one part of staging a game. That people forget about. When that game that we had in the RDS that was cancelled, it wasn't because of the pitch. It was because of the access to the ground and all the pathways around the ground. You know, safety is an issue. So, I mean, we know closer to the time. I mean,
yeah, but it's just another bit of.
They're going to be playing it behind closed doors, effectively, because if they're playing it in Dublin,
tenner on the gate.
Their fan base is probably not going to travel down to Dublin, and at a moment's notice. I mean, if the game was set in Dublin 2 weeks ago, maybe they might have sold tickets for it. But if it's going to be called on Saturday afternoon that it's going to be, called on Friday evening that it's going to be in Dublin on Saturday, they're hardly going to start scrambling around for tickets. So it'll be effectively either behind closed doors or with a bunch of walk-ups from Leinster to watch them. You'll
get a few come down the M1, but beyond that, I mean, I remember watching Claremont against Saracens 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and I'm trying to remember.
It was on a Monday. It was on a Monday, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if the ground was empty because it was on a Monday, or was it a COVID game? I just can't remember, but I do remember that the ground was pretty empty.
It was pre-COVID, and I think it was. If it wasn't behind closed doors, it was, it was called so late that nobody was going to show up.
Yeah.
And it might have even been played during working hours. I can't remember exactly.
It was during the working day, as it were.
Yeah. So, who's going to show up for that?
And I think wasn't there a game back in the black and white days when I think we played Newcastle in the very early stages of the Heineken Cup, where it was, I think they ended up playing in Leeds because the pitch in Newcastle was frozen.
Actually, speaking about Newcastle, one game we didn't talk about was Connacht's win over Newcastle.
Yes, in
the Challenge Cup. A brave selectoral decision to leave out all the Irish guys that paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying the Irish guys? Are you saying the Irish guys are holding them back, Dave?
That's it. Yeah.
There's a classic case of what I was speaking about earlier. You've got a situation where Connacht go, well, hold on, we're not going to focus on this. Let's focus on the league and get into the other cup for next year. And we'll put some decent enough guys out, but we're not going to go mad for it.
But a big proviso there, John. Big proviso. They're playing Newcastle.
Of course.
You're talking about a team playing Leinster's first.
Of course, but even so, they sent a team out that wasn't sent particularly to do damage, and they did.
For sure,
so
like I have a suspicion.
I know Newcastle are in shocking financial shape and everything else.
And I have a suspicion that Newcastle didn't play their first team either.
Possibly.
They didn't. But I thought it was a very good performance. Good to see Adam Byrne back, scored a brilliant try.
Cracker.
One other thing I liked about it was their retro jerseys, going back to
I
the
saw that. Yeah, they were good.
early European days,
Yeah.
Eric Elwood era. Yeah, it was nice.
Is there a rule, by the way? Did the IRFU have a rule in the broadcasting contract that before every single Connacht home game, the camera has to pick out Eric Elwood in the crowd? Is that like the law or something? Because if you watch a Connacht home game,
ITV had the same thing. They found out David Beckham at every England fixture in the World Cup.
I didn't watch any games on ITV. I hate ITV.
You're a purist, right? Gilesy and Dunphy.
Actually, they're long gone. Actually, funny enough, you were talking there the other day about Don Lennon. I watched that game on that Munster Toulouse game. Watched it when I was going to watch it in RTE, and Don Lennon was there, which I'm happy about. I love listening to Don Lennon. Yeah. But then I heard the voice of someone who's no relation to me whatsoever.
I know.
And I hit the button, and I had Quinny and Ryle Nugent. Delightful.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's vastly superior commentary than Kyle, isn't it? My God.
Yeah.
I was watching it on my phone over in waiting for my flight home, and it was blood coming out on my left ear after listening to that idiot speak. But anyway. So one of the other fixtures on Sunday is Saints against Munster. They've had a fair few ding dongs in the past.
Yeah.
But it's obviously that is a pretty big game for Munster.
41 phases, fudge drop goal. Wasn't that Saints?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saints haven't dinged on it like you're talking about. Saints are not they're done. This particular Saints team is done. And they were rubbish the other night. I was watching them.
Now, they were playing La Rochelle, but yes,
I know, but they were on the same pitch as La Rochelle. I would contest the use of the word playing them. I'm sure, they're dreadful. I always think that Saints never recovered from the 1-2 punch of our comeback in 2011, and then Munster the next year. That damaged that club. That damaged the psyche of that club, and they've never come back from it.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? And I think you're right. And Ulster have similar. We've spoken about it many times. Ulster have similar psychological damage. And even there's plenty of other games that we as not being Ulster supporters could mention. Like, do you remember there was a match we were playing against Toulon in a quarterfinal, which we did lose. But the night before, they played Saracens in Ravenhill. Jared, what's his name? The
Jared
fullback.
Payne.
Jared Payne got sent off because he hit Alex Good in the air, and but they were going very well that season, and they lost that quarterfinal as well against Sarries. But one other bit of pretty big news was the French police, the French courts convicting Laporte and Altrad and giving them suspended sentences for corruption and bribery. It just seems a bit mad, doesn't it?
No, actually, having watched Laporte over the last couple of years and having watched Altrad over the last couple of years, it doesn't seem mad. It seems it's about bloody time.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, France still going to host the World Cup. So,
it should be pointed out that none of the charges against them relate to the World Cup.
No, I know that.
Well, I'm just going to say.
But I'm sure there's a bit of jiggery-pokery.
Well, no, because Jason, you and I both know that South Africa is a far safer country than Ireland. That's not jiggery-pokery. There's no way any reasonable person could argue with that.
Sure. Yeah,
well, I've been to Ireland, and I think I'll reserve judgment on that one, David.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, France is a strange country. There's influence peddling at the highest level is pretty much part of French business culture. The fact that somebody's got caught for it, or somebody's been punished for it, not so much caught for it, but punished for it, that's kind of the surprise.
Yeah.
But also the fact that of Laporte and who he was and what he had done previously. He was a minister, he was head of.
And there's an element of that
union.
to it as well.
Normally it's not the head honcho that gets caught, it's his underlings takes the fall.
For all the fun, there is a political element to this as well. He was a confrère of Sarkozy, who has also is in trouble with the BIC, Le BIC, for influence peddling and corruption. But funny enough, there is a political element to it as well. It's ironic that a small element of the process that has caught the guy for corruption is probably a little bit corrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, they kind of got suspended sentences, so I don't think they'll be slopping out and eating
no
stale bread and water.
What is this? This vintage is rap.
Be like
I wanted the 2012. This is the 2011. It is peace.
Exactly. More like Goodfellas. Like in Goodfellas, where they were, they got all the little ingredients into their prison cell where the boys are cooking fine Italian food. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks very much, boys. Thanks very much for watching. If you are following us on Facebook, Twitter, please give us a like and a subscription. Cheers.